Welcome everyone to What the Force, and welcome to a special edition of What the Fandom, where we get to talk about, I would say, one of the most epic Star Wars webcomics out there. A Star Wars comic. We have Jim Mello. Hi.
Hey.
And Alex Ray. Hi.
Hello there.
What the heck?
At least you were on brand. That was good.
That was good. That was good. Awesome. Welcome, guys, to What the Force.
Thank you for having us. This is great. This is the greatest day of my life.
Yeah.
Oh.
Every day is the greatest day of your life, Jim.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like it keeps on getting better for you, Jim, based on your tweets.
Oh my gosh.
A Star Wars comic is a fan-based comic that almost takes these little snapshots into maybe not lesser known characters, because sometimes you get the mains in there, but really these like in almost mini arcs that are like off screen or just slightly to the side, or, you know, something that you guys I think have thought about a lot. Do you want to describe it in your own words?
Sure. So a Star Wars comic basically is an anthology series where Alex and I kind of tackle kind of the different aspects of Star Wars. Usually it's those tangential moments, but often, like, as we've grown more competent as creators, we've been more comfortable tackling like the major characters, but we try to like get at those little stories that are kind of off to the side. Usually they run between originally it was 6 pages. Now it's like between 6 and 10, depending on like what we need, because they come out bi-monthly. And yeah, right. That's about it, right? That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate specifically how it's built on the site, because it not only goes, you know, from comic to comic, but also it's not just like static. It almost like moves with the flow of the web design, which I feel adds like a really amazing layer to the comic, just stylistically, in how you get to appreciate it.
How you actually navigate the pages of the comic.
Yeah, like how you click through and you're like the next page, and it almost like it feels like it flows very nicely, like almost like a scene swipe in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the reader. That's our friend Jess. She coded that site for us. She made us a WordPress site, basically, when we first had the idea to deploy all this stuff. So that's a lot of the design was me doing, or 3 of us with them, or 2 of us with input, and then she made it all work. So that's her magic in the background.
It adds to the style, I think, a fair amount, as well as that you're just focusing on, you know, one character at one point in time and telling that like mini story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Her design, what's cool about it too is she kind of had to, because there's no easy format to do the comics that we wanted to tell online. So she kind of had to like reverse engineer from WordPress like a way to create like the fluidity that you're seeing. So it's kind of cool. Like we owe Jess a lot for what she did, especially when we started. It was really awesome.
Yeah, now she just occasionally yells at me if I muck something up. But yeah,
like, just to clarify, Jim, you're the writer and Alex, you're the artist.
Yes, that's me. I do the art stuff.
I have to say, Alex, some of your art is like better than Marvel level Star Wars. It's amazing.
Thank you.
It's so awesome. It's like because sometimes Marvel, like the actual Star Wars comic goes a little into the like super hyper real. Like it's almost like they're trying to do screen grabs or something. And
it's almost like they do screen grabs,
or they do screen grabs, and
as the reference for the shots. Yeah. I've used. I mean, there's so much different reference online for people to use nowadays. You don't ever have to leave your computer, or you can look through some books, I guess. But yeah, they do have a more realistic style lately. At least the official stuff, like LaRocco stuff, way more in the realm of realistic illustration. But thanks for saying that you like it.
So
have you told Marvel?
Well, if I ever get a chance to talk to somebody there, I will definitely say.
Write them a sternly worded letter, please.
Thank you.
I will do a podcast on it. This one. What inspires you to do that style? Like, what kind of styles are you pulling in there?
Oh, I mean, all the artists that I looked at, and like, because Jim started me down the road of comics about 5 years ago, he just yells a lot. He just yelled at me, read this, read this. So yeah, yelling. But yeah, the artists that I end up like, I really enjoy are Raphael Albuquerque and Sean Gordon Murphy, Goran Parlov, that all have sort of different similar styles. I also like Eduardo Riso, who's more cartoony, I guess you could say, like real dark, kind of simple cartoony. But a lot of it changed. I feel like the style shifts slightly between every issue, just because different headspace, different month, and almost a different process, just because slamming it in between everything else happening in life.
And tonally, the stories switch so much too.
Yeah, like a good example would be Mad About Me was I was in a rush, like always, to go. We were leaving for England, going to go visit my brother. So I had to finish it before I normally would have to. So it ended up being real thick, real inky, and real, I don't know, loose, I guess. And people seemed to like that one because it was an issue about music, in the Star Wars universe anyway. So I guess it fit. And other ones are a little bit tighter, a little bit. It just sort of changes as I'm playing around and experimenting a little bit. The basic process is almost always the same. But,
like without experimentation or constraints or, unique challenges added on, you don't necessarily push yourself in unique directions artistically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, if it weren't for this comic, nothing that I make in comics would look like this now, because, man, you should see some of the pages. The first comics Jim and I were trying to make like 5 years ago. He'd give me a script. And I would come back, and I found those. They're in a drawer right by my desk.
This is an awesome segue into like talking about how this all began. How did this all start, guys? It seems like a lot to commit to.
It is, and we've tried to lighten the load a little bit in the past year. But basically, it started from, because Alex was just talking about how we met each other in 2012. We've been trying to make comics since 2012, and nothing was really kind of taking off because it's such an investment to do.
Yeah, it's really easy to be like, let's make this comic, and then if you don't do the work,
you don't realize the effort that goes into it, like the amount of time you have to spend. Rogue One came out, and I'm a Star Wars.
Yes, you are.
And Alex is a Star Wars. And
I'm a sort of Star Wars.
We kind of, sitting in the movie theater, I kind of came up with like the template for what I wanted us to do, which was to make really short vignette style stories so that we could actually do it, because 6 pages is still a lot of work, especially when you're having to draw everything out like Alex does and letter it and color it. But it's a lot more manageable than a 21, 22 page regular comic. And then it was actually the Two Tubes character that inspired the first story, and that idea of like, well, let's tell stories about these specific characters and sort of like focus the story on like this emotional core that this character kind of revolves around.
Right.
And so that's sort of, and then I ran to Alex and like screamed in his face. Like he was like, okay, man, let's do it.
Since I never raised my voice ever.
You're never excited ever.
Alex, you do seem super chill, so I'm going to take you at your word on that.
All the turmoil is internal.
It's all kept in the mustache.
It's all on the inside. It's like beautiful mustache, goatee on the outside. Nothing but angst and anger on the inside.
Yeah, the mustache and goatee is just vibrating so fast, imperceptibly, just getting on my internal rage.
In real life, though, Alex is basically like a giant bear, but instead of like disemboweling you, he wants to hug you really bad. That's pretty. I think that's pretty accurate.
Thanks, man. I'll take that as a huge compliment.
I'm looking at the Star Wars bromance here. This is like the most amazing thing.
We couldn't have made this comic for 2 years if we didn't love each other.
Yeah, that is a great description of it. A Star Wars bro, man. Yeah, when he came to me with that first Rogue One script, I thought it was super cool.
Yeah.
And we just sort of talked about, like, is it manageable? And because, like he said earlier, nobody really does web comics, or not that I've seen. I've seen a lot of cool formats, somewhere you can click panels and they'll zoom into a different thing, or some of them are page per week. Some are, if you look at any of the press web comic plugins, it'll be like 3-panel. But we wanted to just make a comic like a traditional print comic would be, just few enough pages, kind of like it'd be a backup, to a regular floppy. So we're like, let's figure out a way to make that format work. And can we actually do all the penciling, inking, coloring, and lettering, once a month, 6 pages? Because, 22 pages, if you actually see any of the very few professional comic artists who seem to make their whole living off of it, they just sit there and draw for, most days out of the month. And they're all, at least if you go by Twitter conversations, you see their posts. They just seem to be like, yep, drawing again. Look at me drawing.
Drawing all the
every
time.
Every day. Because it takes a long time. It does take a long time to make any kind of, if it's going to be worth showing. Some people have a simpler style, but, it still takes a lot of effort to do that drawing. But once he came to me with that script, it sort of, I feel like, tickled both of our fancies that there's a way we could combine our desire to make comics into a fandom that we were both members of. And since I was a kid, wanted to learn about those weird side characters that you see, like, want to buy some death sticks, that guy. What drove him to be there? What's his life story? How did he become a death stick salesman in the bowels of Coruscant?
It's probably a super sad one. Oh, man.
Probably, but that's what I'm saying. Like, those are the people. You see all these background characters. Their costuming is amazing, and they're really well fleshed out, in the setting or by the artists, the creatives who make them up. Or you read the expanded universe novels, and there's people they'll brush, like, hey, you, what are you doing over there? Like, what's that guy's story? I don't know. It's a huge universe that exists because of Lucas and because of the movies. But I don't know. We just we could make comics, and it's almost like we had ready-made stories. Jim has to write them, but all of those characters exist in the Star Wars universe somewhere. So we could make them, flesh them out, I guess. So Jim just would come up with those, like he said, and it was a way for us to cut our teeth, actually try to sit down and put the work, or put the effort in to make a comic.
Well, and it gives you a goal and a framework by which you can push yourselves and push yourselves forward in the creative process. So, Jim, how do you come up with these stories?
It's just the stuff that interests me. Which is a really simple answer, but I was always interested in exploring Mon Mothma's compassion.
Yeah.
Right. So that was sort of the basis of the second story is that whole idea of these senators struggling under the Empire without giving themselves away. She eventually does, without giving themselves away and still being able to sort of retain the parts of themselves that make them, compassionate, decent being. And then we did a Darth Vader story basically because we wanted to tell a story where we could show his lettering, the way he breathes and stuff, in the visual comics form.
Yeah. We sat around one day and Jim was literally sitting over my shoulder, just all hunched, and we were looking at Adobe Illustrator, trying to come up with the perfect speech bubble for Darth Vader. And that was the whole idea of us making that comic sort of hinged upon the fact, could we make this bubble? And then once we did, he wrote
the comic based
or did
on
you?
The bubble.
I figured.
No, I wrote it. I wrote a Vader book. Well,
yeah. Well, we had to showcase it.
I wrote it because one, there's a chance I'll never ever get to actually write Darth Vader canonically. So I was if we can make a comic and I can write Darth Vader, I'm gonna do. But two, just to analyze that idea, with the Vader story that we did, it was interesting to analyze not just Vader, but the legacy of Vader via the Sith and the Star Wars universe. It's that was interesting to me. The idea of droid sentience in the IG-88 story and the Gonk story, where they're very different stories, where you have one that sort of loves the idea that he's a droid and that he doesn't have to choose. He's built to do this one thing. And
life is not complicated.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And he sees that as a sort of superior way to be versus the Gonk droid, who is, again, we characterize him this way, but there's it's kind of seen as a stupid utilitarian robot, and then he has all these emotions and stuff that make him something special, which is something that the Star Wars galaxy does all the time with this character.
Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, and droids themselves, they're just tapping into that storytelling way more in universe. So I felt like those two stories especially were very apropos to even what is happening canonically, right? And would fit alongside those. And I feel like your storytelling style especially would fit in like almost like a comic version of a certain point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like what it is in a way, the Star Wars comic as a whole. It just goes across all the eras whenever we want to do like a different thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, that's what it is. But now we're getting to the point where we, like I said, we got to tell Han stories and Vader stories. And we have our next comic that's coming out has like a big character in it too. So it's fun to tell that too, because we get to analyze different aspects of characters that we think we know. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I find interesting is we all see these characters differently and we all interpret them in different ways. So it's nice to, instead of just going online and tweeting or writing an essay, like I can use this and Alex can kind of use it as a way to give our interpretation of these characters, you know, and the facets of them that make them.
Yeah, someone mentioned that about the Poe Dameron comic we did sort of by accident coincided with the end of the Poe Dameron Star Wars, the book, the comic. Seriously, didn't really realize that was going to happen, but cool that it did. It sort of came at the right time. But Jim wrote him. I think it was sounded like Poe Dameron to me, but someone mentioned that it just sounded different from the Jim, who's the writer on all of that.
Charles Soule.
Yeah, Soule. So they'd been reading Soule's Poe Dameron for so long that it didn't quite. It sounded different, but it's still, you know, it's our Poe Dameron. The way I drew him, but it was Jim's Poe Dameron voice.
Right.
So yeah, you get to put your own voice through the characters. I've always liked how you've handled all of them. You're welcome.
There is something powerful about transformational works, especially in how, you know, a new author or a fan takes on the style or the storytelling and kind of views it through a different lens. So what inspires you to, you know, take this on from Star Wars? Like, what is the big motivating factor?
You mean like through the lens of Star Wars, or just like our own personal motivations?
You have to be inspired by Star Wars to want to do this. So
okay.
What do you take on from it?
I think the perseverance. I mean, perseverance is a pretty common thread in all the Star Wars stories, just where making comics is really hard, you know? And so
yes, it is.
You don't even our little comic, like it takes a lot of effort. So that perseverance definitely is an inspiration when we're making these things. Like the idea of working towards something without, you know, knowing if there's really going to be a goal other than like the satisfaction of like putting something out there that we love and that we care about. You know, I think that's an answer to your question.
It's a good answer. Yeah. And I think that what's really fascinating is that Star Wars inspires so many people to continue to create in their own way, like all the fan art and, you know, music that people make that is inspired, or comics. Like previously in this year, I spoke with Darths and Droids creators that do the kind of D&D Star Wars mashup. And like, you know, it's just really interesting to see how something as simple as like this movie franchise, which has now become this like multimedia franchise, inspires so many people with the storytelling to tell, you know, either unique stories or different takes on the stories, or tell the story from a different media in a fandom.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's always about, I guess, escapism to a certain extent that people love. You get in part of fandom of any kind, you know, Harry Potter, Star Trek, or superheroes. I mean, there's those text only online sort of role playing games that are superhero based and stuff. People have always gotten into it, but Star Wars for some reason hits a certain thread with a lot of people. Because as a kid, we were talking before the podcast. As like a kid, I got taken by all the vehicles. Like I was obsessed with Top Gun, and Top Gun had jets, and so there was space jets in Star Wars, and we had all the VHSs. So that's what got me thinking about, or just got my imagination running about things that could happen in this completely other galaxy with space wizards with laser swords, you know. And so, yeah, everybody kind of picks a fandom, I guess. But within the Star Wars fandom, there's so much to work with, because it's an entire galaxy that you can invent characters in, make technology and have, you know, love stories or coming of age stories. It's a whole galaxy, and it's apart from our own. So yeah, I mean, it's fantasy sci-fi in a beautiful way. I feel like Star Wars hit. It's different than Star Trek, different than Harry Potter, different than all those, and that's probably why people are still latching onto it.
Yeah.
Even the angry ones, they're still latching on.
Yeah, they're hanging on to it tight. And I think it's because like this is modern day myth, and the stories that, you know, the creators are telling feel genuine, and they feel like you can identify with or understand where people are coming from. So it allows you to take on and see a character like Mon Mothma and be like, you know, I appreciate what she was trying to do behind the scenes, you know. And they talk about it canonically, but actually to be able to see that in your comic was really inspiring.
I hope people take Jim's ideas and like stick them in their headcanon, because he fleshed out some characters that don't have that kind of official backstory. At least to me, I haven't read as much of the ancillary stuff, especially newer stuff. I've read a little bit of the old expanded universe, but characters who deserve their time in the sun, and that's kind of who Jim's been giving extra life to.
We've been.
You both, because like it is something just to write a headcanon like post, like you guys have said, and just put it out there, Jim, right? Be like, I'm going to write this headcanon of what's happening. But it feels more visceral and more genuine to actually see it like on the character's face with your art, Alex.
Well, and Star Wars is a visual story, first and foremost. And like, so all mediums that tackle Star Wars, I mean, obviously I think the movies are going to be the best because that's the inception, like that's where Star Wars was conceived. But like comics, I think, are such an excellent medium for Star Wars too. And Alex has an excellent way of, not a lot of, like you're kind of talking about the new Star Wars comics and the art and that, like when you're using screen grabs or you're like tracing, you're not acting the characters. And in our comic, what you get to see is Alex is really good at giving the characters life and kind of making them act. Like you can feel the emotion in the scene, whether my words are there or not, you know? And he's also really good at, again, like his characters are very much identifiable as the characters from the movies, but it's through his specific visual lens. And so are the environments and his colors and stuff. So it's...
Yeah, I always really like to see when... Thanks for saying all that, man. But
whatever.
I always like to see when artists do, you know, it's your style. You got to, whatever you're going to draw, it'll come out how it's going to come out. It'd be like taking someone like Dan Hipp, I just love all the stuff he's been drawing lately. Those like little characters and things. I think he's on Teen Titans Go or something. But his style. But what is he doing? I forget what he's officially doing.
He's just doing his own work.
He's just doing his own work, really. I guess he just did a lot of drawings of those. But the drawings he does of all these characters from different fandoms, and they're his style. But you can totally tell it's kind of a form of caricature, taking, you know, the essence of something as it relates to you and spitting it out in your own way.
Yeah.
I like when artists do that as opposed to really tracing are super hard trying to make something look exactly like it is there's going to be some interpretation no matter what.
And I think that there's a place for that in Star Wars. Like I want to see actually more of that, more different comic styles. Like we got to see the Lost Stars anime version of it, which was so cool. And then, you know, like seeing like Brian Kessinger and like his, you know, very Disney slash also Calvin and Hobbes style of Star Wars is really cool. Because then it makes you view Star Wars through a very different lens every time, because it's like through the eyes of that creator.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite moment from a Star Wars comic that you've written or worked on yourselves?
You go, Jim.
There's like a lot. I mean,
like, I love myself and this
Well,
comic.
no.
Just kidding.
No. Well, I mean, it's definitely like, you know, but I think we're proud of what we've done. But like, what's cool for me is I've gotten to see like these ideas that I've come up with, you know, I've watched Alex create them. So it's always like super exciting, and it means a lot to me when I see them like done. But it's probably going to be our Carrie Fisher tribute, the last page there, where we got to say, like, in our own way, we got to say goodbye to Carrie. So that was really, really, really meant a lot to us to work on. I mean, it wasn't particularly the happiest thing, but at the same time, like at least we got to say goodbye to someone who I think impacted, I mean, all three of us on such a very, in such a very big way. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Every time I end up reading the end of one of Jim's scripts for pretty much the whole year, not only because it was just like 12 comics, it's a short, yes, but a whole year's worth. So it was just sort of like a stressful thing. And they kept coming because he wrote them. He would write them in clumps, like here's 4 and then 1 later. And then like, here's 4 more. It would just get inspired. But every time I'd read the last bit or I was penciling out the last pages on some of them, I'd get all misty because it would just be like, we did another one. But I really like the end of Wild Space because it was halfway, it was 6 months in and we'd proven that we were going to finish it. You know, we'd done more than one. We'd done one. The first one was important, but then when we did Wild Space, it was kind of like our bromance anyway in there. 2 characters sort of yelling at each other, the brainy one and the bold one, the brash idiot. And then at the end of that one, they just punch out into hyperspace, not knowing if they're going to like hit a boulder or an asteroid or like a planet or a black hole. And that last little 3 shot at the end got me several times just reading through it again. I was proud of that one. It's cool.
Yeah, we had to rework that like several times.
We've had to rework a lot of things several times.
Yeah, that's true.
It would be up to like the last page, and Jim would be like, no, hold on, we got to do this thing, and I'd be like, no, I'm tweaking this drawing. So much editing until you have to just force it out.
Yeah, the process, it's a strenuous process, you know, because there's things you don't see until it's on the page, and there has to be a sort of rhythm to the comic for it to flow.
I heard this quote recently, and I apologize, I don't know who said it, but it was, you never really are done with a creation. Sometimes you just have to let it go, or let it like live on its own.
I feel like it was like Degas, I think Edgar Degas or something. It was art is never finished, only abandoned.
Yeah, only abandoned. I like the idea that it kind of escapes. It's just kind of like, it's the time, it's got to go out the door.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times where like it was already live on the site and someone pointed out a canonical error or something, and we had to go back and change the dialogue or whatever. But they were usually small changes. We're trying to stay as close to
what you guys were trying to create from the beginning.
Yeah, as close to canon so people wouldn't get caught up on the canonical error.
Yeah, and people unfortunately will do that. They'll be like, oh, well, this is wrong, so I'm going to fight these guys.
Jim's usually my guy. That he's the continuity editor.
Well, we just know that fans, like, they will pick up on that stuff, and if we slip up like that, it's
if it's really minor, or if it's our interpretation, it's one thing. But you don't want to get actual canon facts stuff. If you're going to include it, you don't want to get it wrong because it'll pull people out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like if something is, I would say maybe what happened with that Poe comic was they can't hear the character's voice in their heads any longer. Maybe it was just too different for them or something like that because they had been really into the Poe comic, the canonical one, and it maybe pulled them out of it or something. I don't know. I feel like canon keepers in Star Wars, because I don't know that everybody is a canon keeper. I certainly appreciate unreliable narrators and those sorts of stories. So I don't know that everyone is, but there are certainly a subset of Star Wars fans that will pull out their canon, their holocron, and be like, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, and then, like, I don't care about that stuff. Like, to me, a good story is a good story, but like within the Star Wars universe, like, it just makes it easier if we watch those details, and try to make sure, like, okay, if these things all line up, it makes it much easier for some people to enjoy the story. Yeah,
like you might be telling historical fiction in the Roman Empire or something, but you're not going to put an M1 Abrams tank in there,
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
Unless you're trying for a strange mashup or time traveling or whatever. Yeah, I feel like in one way it's almost indicative when people get really hung up on details in canon. Like Jim and I have talked about this. It's almost indicative of their fanaticism, and not in a bad way, like fandom, because when you love something so much that you memorize details about it, Like I could still tell you most of the original 150 Pokemon, but I cannot tell you the elements in the periodic table of the elements, which I probably should, because that would be way more useful information. You know what I'm saying? So if you're memorizing details about a universe, it becomes sort of fact in your head.
Do you just sing the song, Alex?
What?
Like the Pokemon song from the Pokemon.
Oh, I can hear it in my head. I don't know all the words, but I know the tune. Many Saturday mornings spent watching.
Yeah,
you should record it, and then it should be the lead into the show.
Yes,
just to really be
or the fade out, just Alex singing the Pokemon song.
This is a podcast about Star Wars, not Pokemon. I promise.
So, what is your favorite, I guess, canon moment for Star Wars? Because I think that tells a lot about people. Like, what do they get caught? Like, what is their thing? What is their jam?
Jim, you go first.
It's going to be in Rogue One.
No,
he loves all of Rogue One. It doesn't count. He loves the whole movie.
No.
He married the movie.
I talk about Let's everybody. Hold on a second. Pump your brakes. Let's talk about this for a moment. Let's talk about this for a moment. Rogue One is special to me because I think it's the most. It reflects me as an adult the most now, and I was not expecting that when I watched that movie. Like, in terms of the values, in terms of the headspace of the characters. So, I love all of this.
It hits you on a soul level.
Yes.
Like,
it's his wife.
I know it doesn't work for everybody. It works for me, and I will die on that hill. Gladly die. Just
I don't think that anyone can tell you, Jim, not to love Rogue One.
They better not. They can try.
That's why would they though? Right, like, why would they? That's like,
you know how it is though, man. You know how it is on social media. I always, whenever I positive post about anything, there's always like that one guy, and that's fine.
There's always that one guy.
Your filters are not set up correctly, Jim.
I'm gonna cheat and say two things. Yeah, okay. I'm going to say two things. But I'm going to say that one, I wanted to do at least one comic thing because it is a really, really great moment. Possibly my favorite moment in all of the new.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Can I guess? Is it the Darth Vader moment?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
When he finds out about,
that's my favorite moment too.
Yeah, because it's the greatest thing ever. It's literally, and it works so well in comics. It's not even funny.
It's my favorite, like, Darth Vader moment of all time. And it's, like, up there in my top 5 of Star Wars moments because, like, okay, sorry. I'm too excited. I'm sorry.
No, it's your podcast, man. You just yell all you want.
No, but so this is the moment in Darth Vader 2015 when he during the Vader Down arc when he falls to the planet and the rebels are like, we're gonna go capture Darth Vader.
Actually, no, it's not
that one. No.
No, I thought we were on the same page, and you ruined it.
Are you talking about like I see only dead men? Is that moment that
yes?
I only see
that's a pretty baller.
It's
pretty baller.
No.
Okay, is it the one where he realizes he has a son? Because that's also in my top 5.
Yeah.
Shut up.
So but if you look at that,
2 of 5 right there.
If you look at that, like how well structured that scene is.
Yeah.
Like in terms of how they did it with the juxtaposition of like Anakin's memories and Vader's memories with like the realization like that he has a son. Like that's what's not only great about Star Wars and why that moment has so much weight, but like that's really great comic storytelling.
So to clarify, you're talking about the moment in the comics when he realizes he has a son like Fett.
When Boba Fett comes in,
and he
cracks the glass.
Yes.
Okay.
It's so good.
So good.
No,
it's just unbelievable. And I remember like rereading it and just looking at the structure and just like soaking up how much, like how important and how awesome that was. I mean, if I'm being honest with you guys, like that's really what I go for when I write a Star Wars comic, like, because that scene is around the length of a Star Wars comic. And it like has that much emotion in it too. Right. Like it's like a masterclass in like putting emotion into like just packing the emotion.
And it's mostly it comes through in the drawing and in the arts.
Right. It's all the visual stuff.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So show me, don't tell me. Whole masterclass. I agree with you. I love that scene as well. And I go back and forth with like my favorite moments because I cheat as well because I like love a lot of things. And actually right now that moment from the Galaxy of Adventures where C-3PO and R2-D2, I tweeted about it. See Vader and then he lights his lightsaber and we do not get that moment in Vader 2015. We don't get that moment without continuous iterative storytelling that adds to the story and makes you think about the characters in different ways.
It implies an emotional perspective from 3PO and R2, who have a lot of history, obviously, with Anakin, and we don't have that moment in any of the movies or
and it was just this little
so far. So
it was like 3 seconds, and they just pause. But like what you said too. So that moment itself, as well as the Lords of the Sith book, made me mentally connect Vader to Anakin. Before that, I couldn't see them as the same person. Like they were different people. But that moment in the comic made me go, oh, hey, this is this person. Long before that Rebels episode with Ahsoka cutting open his mask, which many people consider to be the moment that they actually see Anakin as Vader.
I don't know. I've always seen them as two sides. Or not two sides, because I see them as, I've always seen them as the same man, you know. But I owe that a lot of that, I think, because I read the Revenge of the Sith novelization
I know it's on my list because of your silly tweet bot. Not silly.
Silly?
I take that back.
The greatest bot who's ever lived.
No. Okay.
Everybody loves that bot.
I take that back. It's so good.
It's the greatest bot
distracts me
that's ever lived.
And I have lots of stuff to do, Jim. Why are you distracting me?
Let me tell you something. I don't care. You need to go read your book. It's time to go.
Read the Revenge of the Sith.
You need to stop this interview right now. You can come back when you're done with Revenge of the Sith.
Jim and I will just stare intensely at each other.
I mean, don't you always?
That's normal.
Already?
That's normal.
All right, Alex. I'm sorry. I got a little excited.
Wait, hold on.
You have another one. Fine.
He didn't do his movie canon one.
I just wanted to say this really quick because it's super important and I don't talk about it enough. Okay. But my favorite moment in canon, not comics, is the scene on the Endor platform between Vader and Luke.
Oh, yeah.
When Vader says, that name no longer has any meaning for me. And then Luke is like, it's the name of your true self you've only forgotten. That moment is so powerful. It's so powerful. And it's all in like the body language between the two characters. It blows me away every time I watch it. I love it. I just want to kiss it. I don't care. You guys can judge me right now.
No. It is so powerful. And the sadness and contemplation in Vader as he's examining the lightsaber, he's thinking about his past. That was all just written in that script, and now it has way more meaning to it because of everything else that we know about him in the past.
Right.
You know, we can almost, because of that Vader 2015 comic, think about what he's thinking about.
Well, and it's kind of a nice bookend to what we just talked about in the scene where he finds out that like he has a son. You know, like at that point he's seeing how far his son has gone without him. You know, too, in a way.
Alex.
My favorite scenes would have been like, if you were asking kid me, it definitely would have just been Return of the Jedi, the space battle. And before the new stuff, before the sequels have been coming, I would have actually had to say, now that I'm thinking about it again, Han and Leia in the ice, like in the tunnels in Echo Base.
You don't want me to leave because of the way you feel about me. Yes, you're great help. You're a natural leader.
Yeah, that right there. Just like that moment when she's like, that moment, because I grew up watching a lot of rom-coms. What are you going to do? But now I have to say that my favorite is going to be, people are going to be like, yeah, shut up, guy. But it's in The Last Jedi, because when Yoda came back on screen, I remember we walked into the theater, Jim was literally about to fall out of his own clothes, just melt into the floor because he was so nervous, like always when we go see new movies. But I remember like looking at him, or maybe it was our friend who came with us, and I was like, I just hope they have Ghost Yoda in here. I need to see Yoda in this movie. And he shows up and he burns down the damn tree. Like he was just sitting there, mischievous Yoda, just maniacally like, oh, I've missed you, Skywalker. And he's just like, nobody want to read those books. Page turners, they're not, just he burns a tree down.
That's really good.
Thank you. I don't know if they meant Rian Johnson, or I don't know if they meant it to be like, we're burning down your assumptions and your expectations, like we're doing something new here now. Like this is going to be a new force going forward, and all meaning and metaphors. It was just so fun, like freaking Yoda being being a mischievous little dude. I mean, how you get to be almost 1,000 years old in life, and you're just a beautiful being of the Force, and like you decide you're just going to be a little mischievous. Like my wife, I got her to watch all the Star Wars. Finally, she hadn't seen any of them, and I finally sat her down and we watched all of them, minus the I think she'd seen Episode 1 at some point. But she loved Yoda. That's why she came back to Star Wars, and she loves it now, because he was just like, no, trying to like whacking on R2, getting his food.
I mean, he always had that mischievous streak, and I think without the stress of the weight of the galaxy and his whole failure and everything like that on top of him, that is his natural state. I'd like to imagine that. Like, that is who he is.
Yeah, same. That's why I love.
He loves doing the crazy hermit routine, dude. That's his jam. He's like, he gets prepped for that. He's like, all right, here we go.
That was definitely my new favorite moment there. Just like them watching that tree burn. Someone, and I didn't really catch it before. I don't know why I wasn't paying attention, but someone pointed out that it looks a little like the fire looks a little like the Rebel Starbird.
Yep. Well, that sort of thing. The tree itself has those like things, and then when the fire happens, he is there to his purpose in that moment, and to take on the mantle of reigniting hope in the galaxy, and then to help bring back his knowledge to those that need it, that have survived, is his job as Luke. Like, that is what he's all about, and Yoda has to smack him on the head to remind him.
Yoda just likes smacking people on the head, I think.
I loved how like actually physical Yoda was. Like that he could interact and he could do things. Like, I thought that was a really cool advancement of what we know about Force ghosts.
That makes sense. I mean, if you want to go into the pseudoscience of Star Wars, it's all Force particles, right? It's all, every particle in the galaxy has it somehow charged, and they're telekinetic. So why not? It's not like, it's kind of like how Ghostbusters, they had ectoplasm, that sort of thing. It's like there's a physicality to the ghosts, but I'm glad that they put it in there, because before it was just Return of the Jedi. They're all just standing around, just being ghosty,
hanging out.
Yeah, and now it's
watching people party.
Maybe it's just because it's Yoda. He's so strong, and that stick is just so forceful that he can whack people with it.
With all of the whacking on people's heads he's done before.
Yoda's my favorite. All right, he's just my favorite. That's why I like that scene.
That's so awesome. So, what is it like to like build kind of your own headcanon? I know that it like sits in universe as much as possible, like by plugging into as many canon things as you can, but like, what is it like? Do you ever get like confused about like what is yours versus what is the galaxy's, or what is in canon? Like, oh wait, we came up with that. That's our thing.
We were talking about interpretations earlier of like different characters. Like, we're always talking online, like how people see these different characters. So I think we're all guilty of it, is like we just get so like caught up in how we interpret a character that sometimes we forget that other people see them a different way. So that's the only thing that usually, like, I forget, like, oh, not all people will see Qui-Gon Jinn this way, or not all people see Vader this way, or I guess Poe Dameron. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
well, but no, I don't know. I feel like with Mon Mothma or something, that's what I meant before, is that you put the personality on her, that she's just this super giving and philanthropic and humanitarian or whatever.
Altruistic?
Yes, thank you. There's the word. Person, and you don't get that because she doesn't have enough lines ever.
Yeah. And even the parts in the canonical books, there's not nearly enough of what she was or how they speak about what she did,
Yeah, I forgot. I haven't read those.
That's cool. I mean, like, just like Last Shot and Bloodline, and having Leia talk about what she was and how she doesn't feel like she can live up to Mon is kind of powerful too.
Yeah,
I don't think I've gotten confused about stuff. Like what's canon and what's our stuff.
I mean, we're really proud that a lot of people feel like it slides so easy in, because that's something that we work towards. Like the idea is that if we can make it as close to like an official product as possible without it being an official product, like people will adopt our ideas, and they'll enjoy it so much that it will become a part of the Star Wars story that they tell to themselves, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's as powerful as listening to somebody on a YouTube channel or me on a podcast talk about our interpretation of these characters in a meta. You know, it's as powerful as that, but you make it feel grounded and real because you give a snapshot into that person or that character's life.
Right. And it's easier for me to tackle explaining like how I feel about certain characters and ideas in Star Wars this way, by creating like a structure around it versus just like tweeting or writing an essay or something.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, and what Alex really drives home is sometimes when we do it well, when we really drive those ideas home. So
yeah.
There was a hashtag somebody put last year, hashtag make Trello canon. Trello, the Arthurian storyteller from the Leia book. And I was like, we did it. A little victory dance. Somebody wants one of our characters to be canon.
Yeah, that's actually a really good segue into talking about like you have created this unique fandom. And I would say it is like I haven't seen a level of this comic out there elsewhere. I know lots of people do their own versions of Star Wars, or they do these like little mini shorts or things like that, but this level of commitment to this whole thing, what is it like having like fans and people out there that appreciate your work, you know, your fans, and then like there's fans of you?
Yeah, it's flattering, you know. We were just trying to make comics. I mean, love Star Wars, but we're just trying to make comics, and I'm glad that people like it every time. You know, you put it out, you're like, this is the one they're gonna hate. They're gonna skewer us, and they're gonna dox our computers, burn it all to the ground. They hate us so much for producing this comic. It's always the fear is there, but generally we haven't gotten that much negative, you know, many negative comments. Most people who do are just like, I've got too many comics to read. You know, I can't fit a fan comic in there, even if it's decent. But the fact that most people think that our comic is decent is, yeah, it's nice. It's flattering, and it's nice that I'm just glad to be contributing to it as a whole, because there are good Star Wars fans out there. There's lots of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool when people like you, or Comics with Kenobi, or other people contact us or write into the website just to say like that they appreciate what we're doing and that we've somehow like made their Star Wars experience better in some way. It's cool when Alex and I were talking about this earlier, but like we've had the comics been translated into Spanish and Russian from fans around the world, Polish.
I think so.
So it's like, that's crazy to think about, but it's also, you know, we're glad that we can inspire that in people.
Yeah. Quick plug for the Russian ones. There's this guy, Vladimir, I believe his name is, and he's been in contact with us for probably almost a year now, but he's translated, I think, every one of our comics, or in Collaboration Studios is what they're called. And their site is through Russian Facebook, VK, which is the Russian Facebook. And I could give you a link to it after this, I guess, or something. We'll see. But yeah, he's translated every single one of them. And then this other fan/friend of a Star Wars comic did the Spanish translations up to the 6th issue or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And I think they're on our website. Actually, you can find them. So it's really cool that people felt so strongly about it, like the comic so much that they felt like translating it into their native language so that more people who didn't speak English could read it. And so that's very sort of surreal.
What are you guys looking forward to upcoming in Star Wars in 2019?
Well, since everything I think is happening in 2019.
Like everything is happening.
Literally everything's happening.
Jim?
Don't point at me. They can't see that you're pointing at me.
She's pointing at him, everyone.
You're finding... Yeah, why are you saying it? Nobody else can see it. We're finding each other at Celebration.
That's fine. Get in line. There's plenty of you who want to fight me. I'll fight everybody.
I don't want to fight you. I just want to say hi.
Oh, I thought you said you want to fight.
No, I'm finding you.
Oh, well, you know, my brain is immediately like, all right, challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted to find me.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have to go in disguise, cosplay as like a red Twi'lek or something. Just
Darth Talon. Here I no.
Yeah.
Oh man. Probably the Cassian show. Cassian show's next year, right?
I don't know.
When is the release date for the for Mandalorian?
I think it's going to be ready for when Disney Plus is out.
Yeah.
Which is like the end of 2020.
I was actually just looking.
Oh, okay.
I just Googled because I know that that's episode 9 is next year, but I was looking. I was like, oh, what else is being released? Just to see like all of them on the
like everything
on the wiki. On the wiki, and dude, there's some really fun stuff. The Star Wars Jedi Training Lightsaber Soundbook. I mean, that sounds fun.
Lightsaber Soundbook?
Exactly.
Wow. That's so accurate.
And then there's also Where's the Wookiee 3? That's coming. I don't know if that's a kid's book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Where's Waldo?
Where's the Wookiee 3? I'm getting it for you, Jim.
That's great. I need it.
You do.
I need it. I need to find him.
All right, Jim. What are you looking forward to? Just the Cassian show? Is that your top?
No, I'm looking forward to everything, man.
Everything.
I'm looking forward to The Mandalorian. I'm looking forward to the end of Resistance Season 1. We're looking forward to 9. I mean, 9's going to be so stressful for everybody. I don't know how we're going to get through it.
You're talking about you. You're talking about you.
I'm not just talking about
No, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like vibrate new Star Wars in the theater. I like basically bounce in my seat the whole time. Like I'm so insane. I'm like
Jim, we should
shaking.
We should take her with us, Jim. You got to come with us to go see the movie.
No, the theater would explode. Like the nervous energy.
The reason, like, we go every time. I'm always excited, and I'll look over excitedly at the people we go with, and I bounce a little bit too. But it's nothing compared to Jim. Jim will jump up out of his seat. I swear he wants to launch over the people into the screen sometimes, because it's just so. It's such a crazy release of all of the anxiety and all of the expectation,
Well, and with 9 too, we're getting just like this series, the sequel trilogy, which has been emotional for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
That story finally coming to an end and either satisfying some people or not satisfying some other people.
You just exactly laid it out. It's going to be about 50-50, man.
It's going to be nuts.
There's no way it's going to be 100% satisfactory to all people. Dude, so many people have come up with so many, ideas that they want to see, or that it has to end this way, or it won't be satisfied. And it's like, I'm just going to go and see it. And I go at least 2%. Yeah. It is, man. And 2% of the reason I go is to watch Jim. React. It's the best.
We need a little little camera on Jim's facial reactions the whole time. Just
I'm gonna set up a GoPro thing and you wear a hat just pointing at your face.
That would be horrible. Everybody would be so mad that tuned in. They'd be like, "Really? This is what we're watching? This idiot?" All right.
He's we could post it as
just single tear. Yes.
We could post it under a title of early release, episode 9, and it'll be just Jim's reactions. So many angry citizens of the internet over that, I'm sure.
I agree with you, Jim. I don't know that the theater can handle both of us in the same space enjoying Star Wars at the same time. I've been told that it's an experience to watch me watching Star Wars for the first time. So
you guys are the same then.
Yeah,
Well, I was in my brain a little while ago. I was like, that'd be fun to get all the people that I interact with online all the time, into the same theater to watch 9 for the first time. And then I realized no, there would probably actually be fistfights by the end of it, people just screaming. It'd be like that scene in Anchorman where the rumble happens and people throwing tridents and people riding horses through the theater.
Yeah, there'd have to be a police presence.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think things are different when you see people in person and you meet them face to face, and you can get more common ground by talking to people one-to-one or in a group in person than you can over the internet, where you're this anonymous
personality.
I think people would be really chill, and it especially for the first viewing would be just the love of Star Wars, right?
Always. And then viewings 2 and 3 that same morning after.
Yes.
Or for analysis.
Oh, man, analysis, dude. And listening to the soundtrack very closely.
Yes.
That's always me. And the underlay, if you can pick it up in the theater occasionally, you're like, oh, there's whispering there. Cool. Yeah, no, I just love the sound design part of it.
Awesome. Yeah, to random aside, my dad told me when he went to go see Empire in the theater way back that there were people like yelling because people wouldn't shut up during the scene where Yoda is like whispering to Luke in his hut. Can you imagine not hearing the things he was saying the very first time you're seeing the movie because people wouldn't shut up? Because he was just like, that is another Skywalker. It's like he was like, I can't hear him. What are you shut up? Oh, that's Return. I'm saying Empire.
We both got real tense on you.
I'm so sorry, man. Yeah, Return. When he was returning and Yoda's like dying.
He's dying and he's like,
I can imagine having yeah, it's as bad as.
And Luke's like, wait, hold on a second. Yoda's like, please let me die. Just let me die.
It hurts.
I just want to die now.
That's as bad as like Peter Griffin walking out of the theater in freaking Family Guy. Just be like, oh, I never knew that. Is that or Homer? So one of those two shows, he was just like, oh, who knew Darth Vader is Luke's father? And everybody's like, oh, thanks, because they're in line to go into the theater.
Yeah,
that level of.
Yeah, happiness. It's like don't be a jerk after 9. Don't say anything for like 4 months.
Yeah, just keep your mouth shut.
That ain't happening.
Yeah, there will be leaks like the night of. For sure.
I know. It's like that's my one reason for like wanting to see it the night it comes out, or even like because sometimes the theater is the night before, like the midnight, or now they've become like really sensible and there's like a 7 p.m. showing of the show like the night before. So I always try to get that one because I just don't want to be spoiled. Like I just want to experience it even tangentially. Ugh. Even by accident, like. Being spoiled about it would, make me go, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Gotta see it fresh.
Exactly. Well, I'm looking forward to the next comic for a Star Wars comic. I'm looking forward to seeing what else you guys end up taking on. I will read the Revenge of the Sith book, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just for you after I get through the stack of books that I have to read.
No, that's not what we talked about. That needs to be moved to the top of the stack. It's the most important book in that
I have to find
file.
a copy of it, and
Jim's gonna find her stack of books. He's gonna push it.
It's not hard. I will buy you a copy right now. I will buy you a copy and send it to you right now. This is how important this book is. I don't need any excuses.
This is what he did for me and two of our friends who are also Star Wars. He bought all 3 of us the book for Christmas. He just like handed them out to us. Here, and here. This is the book for you.
It's the most important Star Wars.
I really do love the novelizations. Like every single one of them has been, interesting and good. And there's been something I've taken away from them. I actually think The Force Awakens might be the weakest one of the novelizations. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I've read like The Phantom Menace, so I should probably read Revenge of the Sith.
It's the best Star Wars book. It's the best.
I remember even
Jason Fry. I feel like I have to say that one.
You haven't read it yet, so what do you know?
I don't know. Okay, you're right. This could change my mind. I could become a new person in that I love for the Revenge of the Sith novelization. We'll see.
I remember even as a kid reading like Attack of the Clones novelization or something because it was a bookstore. I was like, can I get this? Because we're going on a trip or something, like a road trip, and I needed something to read. And I remember reading that, and a lot of people dislike all the prequel movies. But I was reading, I was like, oh, look, you can see what the characters are thinking.
Yeah. Hey.
All the stuff that is. I was like, oh, that was a whole. I didn't think of it this way. Like, oh, it adds an entire other layer to the story. But as a kid, I was like, that's neat. Like, wow, you get to actually see some insight into the characters. So maybe that's novelizations always do. Adds so much, I guess extra content.
Revenge of the Sith is more than that, though. It's just so good.
I wasn't implying anything else, Jim.
You better. I will climb through this.
I love the Greek tragedy part of the prequels, and I love especially Revenge of the Sith for those aspects, and I'm excited to read it, to do some analysis on it.
Mm-hmm. And you'll have to have Jim back on to talk about it.
Yeah, and the bot.
Yeah. Then you won't resent the bot as much.
I don't resent it. It catches me at weird times, and I'm like, ouch, why are you hurting me? You made me bot just to hurt me.
Look, I was hurting, thinking about it all the time, so now you have to hurt too.
Wow, that's so vindictive, Jim.
I'm the nicest guy. Also, read the book. Everybody's got to read the book.
All right. Let's start with Alex. Alex, where can people find you? Where can people find the comic? What's going on with you out there on the web?
Well, the comic is astarwarscomic.com. Mm-hmm. And pretty much every other form of social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, A Star Wars Comic is the username. And then for me, myself, is alexrayart.com. And I have commissions are available on there. You can buy prints. Actually, I have about 18 sticker packs left of these sticker packs I made and stuff. So yeah, if you want to buy anything or just check out my art, it's on there. And Jim is a Star Wars comic, I think, right?
What? Yeah. Well, I run the Star Wars comic Twitter, and my Twitter is Obes Canobes. Obes Canobes. And then I also offer
best profile picture.
Stick figures. Thank you. I'd like to think so. I can't change that profile picture because that's how people identify me now. Yeah. So, oh well, that's how it goes.
We just accept these things.
It's true. I have no other contact info. There's
people should follow the Revenge of the Sith bot.
So. Oh, that's true. And that's at ROTS bot, novel bot.
Would you write someone a haiku for $5 or something?
Someone wants to send me $5. I'll write them a haiku. Yeah, let's do that right now. Let's do it. I'm opening commissions on this podcast right now.
On haikus. Thank you guys for being on the show. I look forward to seeing any new projects that you come up with. And Jim, I am committing to reading Revenge of the Sith in 2019.
2019. You're just waiting so long. All right, that's fine. That's fine. I'll settle. I'm going to settle.
I know Jim very well, and he has such indignation and anger.
I'll tweet you the whole time. I will tweet you my feelings the whole time. I did it for Dark Disciple, and people were like, "Oh my God, Brie Claire, what are your thoughts?"
Hi everyone, it's Marie Claire here, and it's been about a month since I've been able to do one of these. I was trying to do them more often, but I ended up having work commitments, which got in the way. That's okay. I'm here now. I'm going to try to make sure at least once a month I do these kind of check-ins to make sure, hey, you know what's happening, you know what I'm thinking, you know what everything is all about. After this episode was recorded, Jim and Alex announced that a Star Wars comic would be ending after Comic 19. They would like me to share with you that they are working on a special edition final issue that will be longer, hopefully, and will encapsulate kind of the comic as a whole. And I really hope that this podcast is very much a celebration of everything that they have achieved with a Star Wars comic. I'm also hoping that you all go out there to astarwarscomic.com and read all of their issues. It's a really, really wonderful comic and a great addition to the fandom, even though they're not planning on continuing it any further. They're going to aim for this special final comic to be released sometime in the springtime. So just follow the Twitter or keep an eye out there to see what's happening with that last edition. You may have noticed that there is actually new music for the podcast, and I am so lucky to announce, even though it's on the end of the episode as well, stating that Christy Carew has composed a What the Force theme, and it is glorious. It has everything that I love about Star Wars all mixed in together, and it feels like the Force. It feels feminine. I really love kind of how it almost plays around different aspects of themes that I love so much. I feel very spoiled. Thank you, Christy, for making it, and I look forward to the next time that we record to actually talk a little bit about that. Take a sidebar and talk a little bit about the theme and how you came up with it and the different things that you were thinking about pulling in. Additionally, we've had some amazing feedback on, many of our episodes. I really, really love actually reading the YouTube comments that people leave, because then I can actually reply right away. But if you're interested in giving us feedback more directly, you can email wtforcepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll read some listener feedback on the show. Or I think he goes by a rural farm boy on Twitter. His name is Anthony, and he left us this message by sending us like a voicemail, but over email. Here it is.
How do, Miss Marie Claire? My name's Anthony, and maybe you know me a little bit better from that Twitterverse as Rural Farm Boy. Want to drop you this here quick message, because you was asking what folks thought about Miss Allie's Starcross song. Couple songs that she played on your most recent show earlier this week. And I'll probably be maybe one of the only that comes from it from maybe a really different place. I heard her play live on your show, and she was finger picking a guitar, as I also do, just for myself. I play for me. What I heard was very folksy, very bluesy. And I didn't put down modern day music, and I went back and listened to what folks nowadays call Delta blues or Mississippi blues, and I listened to a whole bunch. There's a ton, and a ton of different styles. But what Miss Allie done, and maybe the way she played on the guitar on your show, but on YouTube, sounds like a mandolin to me. And there's some modern day folks that maybe she kind of reminded me of, kind of like the Punch Brothers, if you know who they are. If you don't, go look them up. You're missing out. And they got a front man, plays mandolin, named Chris Thile. Yeah, she sound like him. But the sounds is what got me of how she was playing. Now, I got to go back and listen to the lyrics because, yeah, they're Star Wars related, and I'm a great fan of Star Wars. And I got what she was saying while you was talking to her about what she sung, having to do with Raylo. And maybe ends are maybe dragging me towards that, but that's for me to figure out, and thank you for helping me along the way. And I hope maybe some of this made sense. I just wanted to give you them thoughts, and you can count me along for the next show and the one after that, and I'll be along for them all. So till the next show, may the force be with you. See you on the radio.
Thanks, Anthony. I didn't really know what you were talking about because I don't know blues that well and I don't know this style. And so I actually followed up with you and you said it really reminded you of the Punch Brothers or a bunch of Riley old blues music. I know that we might not have convinced you on Raylo yet, and that's okay. I don't know that it's for everybody. I don't know that everybody needs to see it. I think that it's just, a trope that is there. And if it happens, it happens. And that's awesome. So thank you very much, Anthony, for your feedback. And I'm very happy to have you be a listener on the show. And of course, feel free to submit your feedback and we might have some time to share it out there to everybody. I also want to announce our good friend Allie, as we were talking about Miss This Band, has announced that she's going to be having a new song coming out in February. And I have heard the acoustic version of this, much like she performed on With the Force in January. I heard the acoustic version of the new song, and it is amazing. She is just knocking it out of the park with these songs. This one is a little bit more towards the original trilogy, and I know that everybody's going to be super excited to listen to it. Also, if you haven't had a chance to read a few books out there done by the author Claudia Gray. I really would recommend that you try to get at least a few of them under your belts by the end of February. I'm going to be covering her writing and that topic in a great amount of detail, and it would be amazing if you could follow along and read up, get prepped and read all of her works. Bloodline specifically is exceptional. Lost Stars also amazing from a canon perspective, from divide perspective, between two sides of a war, right? And Leia, Princess of Alderaan, as well as a certain point of view, her story, Master and Apprentice, is also really amazing. So I'm going to be deep diving into the themes of her books, and I really look forward to talking about it more in detail, as well as hopefully having you listen in and get a lot out of it. Right now I'm working on some prep for Celebration. I'm trying to figure out kind of what I'm going to bring with me and all of those different things. I have some stickers already set aside, so if you come up to me, there's at least going to be stickers to take home with you, and I'm looking into buttons and maybe some other stuff. But I look forward to meeting a lot of the listeners out there. I really look forward to, seeing you in person and getting to know you a little bit better. I do not know what to expect. This will be my first Celebration, so if you're going to, that's really awesome. And make sure that you track me down and say hi, and I hopefully will have something to take home with you. And I think that's everything that I had on my mind this week. I feel like it was a little rambly, but that's how this segment has been going recently. So until I have time to do this again, hopefully the next week or the week after, maybe I'll start sharing kind of what I'm reading or what I'm working through from a canon perspective as well, so you can kind of see what I'm thinking about. As I only recently read Lost Stars, this is me catching up, and now I want to talk about Claudia Gray all the time. So that's kind of where I'm at, and you can kind of see some of that with these additional segments. Well, I hope you guys have a good time until we talk again. And again, a reminder about listener feedback, and cheers. Thank you, everyone, for listening to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host. Our music is the What the Force theme, orchestral music by Christy Carew for What the Force. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/whattheforce. We like to thank all of our patrons, especially those who love What the Force, Night Huntress, and In Wild Space. We are available on iTunes, Google Play, and other podcatchers, including YouTube. You can connect with us on Twitter at WT Force Show. Feel free to reach out and start a conversation. Cheers!